Well, anyway, um, as I'm talking to you, that one of the problems that I have is time, uh, events and time. What I'm just telling to you about the school was when we lived in Bettendorf, Iowa. So uh, it was just before Charlie went into the service. Um, but we lived in Bettendorf, and I had, see, this is why sometimes it's better for me to try to have to figure out time-wise. But anyway, um, I used to just run home from school, but I liked being by myself, you know, because when the kids make fun of you, you know, you don't, it kind of makes you feel bad. So I didn't like feeling bad all the time. So I used to take off and be by myself, you know, walk by myself. I didn't have friends that lived right around me at that time to walk home with and that. So, but I always loved nature and I always liked being out by myself. But anyway, back to my sisters and brothers. But Bernice had her set of friends. And so I don't really remember being around Bernice too much because when she'd get to school, she had her set of friends and she always took off with them. And Grace was 4 years, and so I used to take care of her. So I had her with me a lot. But Bernice, we'll get back to Bernice, whereas the kid, and I'm just telling you the torment that they gave me, but they didn't give torment to my sister, Bernice. I mean, if a boy came up and started giving her a bad time, I'm not kidding, she was a hefty little person, and she just double up her fist and she'd sock them. I mean, she didn't mess with them. And she used to do that to me a lot. When we were home, she'd shove me more. She wouldn't hit me with her fist, but she'd shove me. But anyway, she was really a tough one. She was beautiful, and she smiled all the time, and she was opposite than what I was. And so, needless to say, I liked being around her because she protected me from all of these bullies. But because she would, but then when, like I say, when she got to school though, she'd be on her own, and then I'd be on my own there. But anyway, Bernice was extremely talented. Both of my sisters. She liked dolls, and she just loved dolls. And we used to make paper dolls when we were together, when we were kids. Like we'd get wallpaper and make the clothes out of the designs of the wallpaper. And but Bernice was very well, I don't know how to describe her exactly. She was just outgoing, very outgoing, and she had friends, and she had, like I said, she was very talented. And when she was younger, she used to strike cars. You know, back in those days, how they put the flames on the jalopies and things. She used to do that, and she had beautiful, thick hair. And what she did is that she would take and cut, because it grew fast, and so she'd cut it and she'd make hair pieces. And I mean, her hair was fast growing because she had, that I know of, she had 4 pieces that she had. Like she had a big braid, and she had curls, and she had, let's see what the different ones, but she had different ones that she could attach to her own hair. But her hair being thick and the pieces being thick, they fit together really good. And she never dyed her hair. so they always matched her. And but I always thought that was so clever to have. And then she'd have braids that she could put it around the top of her hair, or head, or in the back. I mean, the way she did it was just, but how she did it too was she used glue. Oh, I can't remember how exactly she did it. I just remember them being on and seeing them. But she did that, and she was very, she got along with people really well. If they didn't, she'd beat them up. No, she wasn't mean, but she was tough. You know, in our situation growing up, you had to be tough, and you had to be strong. Like when my mom and dad would leave us when we were younger, she used to. They used to tell us. They'd say, "Now you don't go outside," because we lived out in the woods where we were way away from people. And so she'd say, "You don't go outside, because if you do, there's a guy that's out there, and if you go out, he's going to get you." Well, I was terrified of men. That's another reason why I ran fast. But she'd tell us that that there was somebody who was going to get us. Well, as soon as she, oh, and then, by the way, I was in charge of my two sisters. And I'm trying to remember the age. We were young though, so we were under 10 years old, I'm sure, there somewhere, because this was in Iowa again. And so as soon as Mom would walk out the door and leave us, Bernice would say, "There's nobody out there." She says, "Come on, let's go." And it was dark, and there was no way. I mean, I was, I hate to say the word coward, but I was afraid all the time. They scared me to death. And so I didn't want to go out there, and I just begged her, "Don't go out, don't go out," because I didn't want to get in trouble with Mom and Dad, but I didn't want to see who was out there. So no, don't take me outside. So a lot of times she'd sneak out by herself, and then I was petrified because I didn't know where she was, and I knew I was responsible for her. So she used to terrorize me like that. And Grace was younger, so she wasn't so hard to manage. I used to just take care of her a lot. But Bernice had a spirit about her. I mean, nobody was going to mess with her. Not anybody, not even Mom or Dad. And Dad and her used to fight a lot. And that used to scare me to death. But sometimes you have to learn to take care of yourself. And the way I took care of myself is I just run and hide. And back there you had a lot of weeds and things like that around, because they had fields and that. And I would just go out and lay down in the field, and then the weeds would be higher than I was. And I would just lay there and watch the stars, if it was at night when we were camping or something like that. And then, but during the day, I used to lay there and watch the clouds go by. And to me, that was the most beautiful, serene feeling, is to watch those clouds, and then you'd see a bird or so, along the way. And to me, that was just absolutely beautiful and quiet, and nobody chasing me. So I like that. But Bernice, on the other hand, she was adventurous. She was high-spirited, and I wanted to be more like her, but I just wasn't. But she was just, people liked her, but they liked her because she didn't let people mess with her, And what was that?
Oh, nothing.
But anyway, she was just really, if I could put her in a few words, I'd say she was extremely talented in whatever she did. She was good in school. Um, she, her problem too was just being two-spirited. If she didn't like it, she wasn't going to do it. And but she had a soft voice, and to me, she was beautiful. She was happy and she was beautiful. And then Grace was the baby, and so that's all we ever heard. Don't hurt the baby, or don't do this or don't do that to the baby. Well, Bernice liked doing it just because they told her not to. she'd tease Grace sometimes just to get a row out of her. But Grace didn't put up with a lot of mess either. But she was different. Bernice and I were sort of like protectors. Bernice protected me because she knew that I couldn't protect myself a lot of times. So excuse me. But she was a protector, and when she was around me. But most of the time she wasn't, like in school and things like that. And she had a girlfriend one time, oh my goodness. And her girlfriend's name was June. And June was big. She was a big girl. Not heavy, but just tall and solid. And we lived, this is another time we lived in Bettendorf. And she came running. I was coming home from something, and she come running at me, and June was with her, and June came up and grabbed me by the back of my head and yanked my head back, and boom! She was wanting to beat the crap out of me, and it was something happened that I wasn't even aware of, but Mom had found out that Grace and okay, got you the wrong one. That was Bernice. I was going to say Grace would never done that. It was Bernice. But anyway, Bernice had done something, and somebody told Mom what she had done, and Mom thought it was me. So when Bernice came home, she jumped on Bernice and June, her friend, because they had done this. So anyway, they thought it was me, and so they were after me. Well, she's out there thumping me good, and her father, man, I didn't think old men ran as fast as he did, but of course he wasn't that old. But he come running across. I saw him coming, and he come running across. He jumped a fence, got over, and grabbed her off of me, and started scolding her and took her home, because she was twice as big as I was. But I remember that episode. How that got in there, I don't know. Because Grace was really with Mom. She spent a lot of time with Mom, and Mom spent a lot of time with her. And sad to say, I really don't know Grace as much as Bernice and I. But Grace was slim, and she was pretty and well liked at school. But she got mad at her last year of school and just walked out. She had her cap and gown and everything, and she just walked out. She had a temper, really a bad temper. And if she didn't like it, she didn't do it. But anyway, and then I didn't know my little brother because he passed away. Well, no, let me say another thing about Grace. Grace had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and she dearly loved those children, and she protected them, and so Grace was really a kind-hearted person in a lot of ways. And so anyway, that's my family. Freddie died during birth, and that broke Mom's heart, so she put all of her attention to Freddie. And then Charlie was killed in Korea in 1950, I think it was 50. And that broke Mom's heart. She never was the same after that. And I remember her crying. And Bernice said, "But Mom, you've got us," referring to us girls. But it never, losing Charlie was really dramatic for Mom. But anyway, that's the family I came from. I mean, we were close in some ways and we were distant in others because we had such different ideas on things, you know, like any family would have.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to pause for a minute and record that section.